We're in conversation with Lieutenant General Steven Kwast, and we're talking about the risks of China taking the high ground, so to speak, in space and using it to further dominate manufacturing, but beyond that, to dominate the entire planet. And so, it took a combination, General, of government popular will and American free enterprise for us to win the first Cold War. Now we have a new Cold War. It's a space war. Maybe it is Space Race 2.0. But China is at work, and they're attacking our strength, which is American ingenuity and small companies. How are they doing this?
Well, they're doing it the same way they've always done it since they, in the 70s, came into the world economy. And I'll use the telecommunications as an example. You probably were surprised, and everybody in the world was surprised, at how Huawei was the 5G dominant company all of a sudden, just out of nowhere. And when you unpack that, you find that what they did is they lured Motorola, Lucent Technologies, and Nortel, three of the big telecommunication powerhouses in the world. They lured them into the Chinese market with a lot of money. And then over the course of the subtle terms and conditions of that opportunity, they bankrupted all three of those companies within 6 to 7 years of that deal. The same is happening right now. It's a silent economic warfare. And so as the CEO of SkyCorp, I already see it, where they will give a lot of money, like hundreds of millions of dollars, to an individual American and say, find a company that is an innovator in space and give them money and get on their board and get influence. Give me their patents, give me their trade secrets, and they will build, by stealing our intellectual property, they will duplicate that and they will flood the market and put these small companies out of business. That's what they're trying to do right now. And I feel it every day as I talk to investors. And when I follow the money, the forensics accounting, it leads right back to China.
I saw that firsthand. In 1999, I was in Hong Kong, went into Shenzhen, looked at the stock exchange, talked to one of their companies, which was an original equipment manufacturer for the big television makers, which were like Magnavox and Panasonic and Sony and so forth. But they promised me that they would bankrupt the American television companies, take the intellectual property and use it for their own television. And I watched it happen over a period of years following that. So this isn't anything new, but it's one thing to lose our television capabilities. It's quite another thing if we lose our capabilities in space.
That's right. And this is, so people need to understand that space is so powerful, and what it can do for us on Earth is both good and could be very bad if in the wrong hands. And it would be like the country trying to decide, should we build a Navy or not build a Navy? We built a Navy to protect the global commerce that happens on the open oceans, and it has been a godsend for our country to survive. We have a choice now, and we need not only the American people, but the federal government to actually put their shoulder into this effort and say, there is a new space race. And if we don't do something to help these small companies that are trying to manufacture and assemble the infrastructure of space to keep up with China, it will be like we are a country without a Navy fighting a country with a world-class Navy. It will never work. We got to do something, and we got to do it now.
Well, the exciting thing is Space Race 1.0 brought us a lot of advances in technology. It really helped all of life here on Earth. But what you're talking about goes a lot deeper. Can you describe what SkyCorp is doing and your vision for the company?
Right. So SkyCorp is essentially doing what Henry Ford did for the automobile. Before Henry Ford, the automobile was very expensive, and it took almost an artisan mechanic to put it together, and only the very wealthy could afford it. What Henry Ford did is took the current technology of the time, but he applied it to an industrial base, a supply chain, and a process that made the car affordable for everybody, and it changed the world. That's what SkyCorp is doing. It is taking the business of space that is very expensive right now, and they are cutting the time and the cost in half in the way they do the process by assembling in space instead of assembling on the ground. Because when you assemble on the ground, you have to spend almost 90% of your effort, time, and energy on making that piece of equipment bulletproof to survive the 7-minute ride up to space. SkyCorp flips that model on its head, and we ship up the parts that are solid and resilient, and we connect them with robots in space so that now it's made for the tranquil sanctity of space.